Previously, during the session in the beginning of June, the government had actually lodged a motion of no confidence in the Speaker. The Speaker declined to have that motion debated on the basis that it wasn't sufficiently mature, which led to the government boycotting the Parliament for 3 days in a row. And the Speaker then, on the 8th of June, announced that, as far as he was concerned, that had triggered vacation of their seats under the relevant legislation. And he sought to have 19 MPs removed from Parliament, including the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister. That didn't happen. Parliament was adjourned, and then we've had, there's been a lot of work done in the courts, culminating today in the Supreme Court ruling that the Speaker was correct, that those seats have been vacated, and that there should now be by-elections in those constituencies. The MPs have secured two things. One is the continuation of a stay, so they basically continue to act in their role until such time as an appeal is heard. So they've lodged an appeal, and that appeal will be heard. So we're kind of in a bit of a holding pattern until the appeal court sits.
But the Speaker is part of the government party. Why is there a divide now?
Well, I think it's important to realise that both in government and in opposition, there's no one party. So each group is a bloc made up of several parties and independents. So there's always a great deal of fluidity in Vanuatu politics. This Speaker, Gracia Shadrach, does have a bit of a reputation for ploughing his own furrow, even when he sits with either the government group or the opposition group. He was nominated for the position by the government, but subsequently, largely around a breakdown in expectations about what would happen in provincial elections, particularly on his home island of Malakula, he didn't deliver what the government expected in terms of leadership of provincial councils, and so that's prompted the government to feel that he's maybe not as good a choice as they might have first thought.
And Tess, how much of a crisis is this, or can the government actually still function quite normally?
Well, the stay motion, or the continuation of the stay order, means that, yes, essentially everybody stays where they are. So we are not without a Prime Minister. Ministries have ministers in place, constituencies have their MPs in place, and that will remain the case until such time as the Court of Appeal rules. So I think it's overplaying things to say that it's a constitutional or political crisis. It is certainly a significant constitutional and political moment, but it's not a crisis.
Well, parliamentary disputes like this happen fairly often in Vanuatu. Would you say it's not completely unusual or significant?
No, the particular facts of this one are new, but certainly you're quite right. We are not strangers to political dispute or political wrangling. I think it's really important for your viewers to know that in Vanuatu we have a really strong track record of when situations like this arise, people refer to the courts make decisions, and those decisions are then accepted and followed by political actors. And that's not always, you can't say that about every other country in the Pacific, but Vanuatu prides itself quite rightly on having that history. And so we would hope that we would see that in this instance as well.
And how significant is the Supreme Court's decision in this case?
Well, it's very significant because obviously it's upheld the decision of the Speaker. It was a fairly, the judgment's fairly sparse. The judge certainly seemed to indicate that he thought it was a fairly open and shut matter. It's not easy to see what the grounds of appeal will be, but obviously the government side, or these 19 MPs, will be taking legal advice as to what grounds of appeal they can rely on. We would expect the appeal court to meet as a matter of urgency, and I expect that this issue will be resolved at appeal court level fairly soon.
Well, if their appeal is rejected, would it force the 19 by-elections rather impractical or unlikely, do you think?
So this would be a significant departure for Vanuatu. Normally we would have maybe one or two by-elections arising out of electoral disputes or a seat becoming vacant. So to have 19 by-elections at one time within 18 months of the general elections last year would be a significant event. Obviously, it brings with it a degree of logistical and administrative burden, and I'm not sure that the population really has much appetite for that. There is the possibility that if that appeal is upheld and the remaining MPs sitting on the government side in a show of solidarity were to resign, that Parliament may be dissolved and we would go to general elections again. Again, I don't think that's something that the community at large has a great deal of appetite for just now.
And just finally, this is all taking place against a backdrop of COVID and a vaccine rollout. How does it complicate things?
Well, I don't think Vanuatu has no COVID cases and the vaccine rollout is going ahead. So it doesn't really, there's no real complication there. I think it's more just that people really have, it's been a very tough 18 months for the people of Vanuatu. There's been, great limitations on economic activity, obviously all the anxiety around COVID and the health implications. And now, the health authorities really want people to be focusing on getting vaccinated. So this is possibly just something that people really don't have much headspace for, I would think.
Indeed. Tess Newton Cain, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thanks, Yvonne.